Last month I did a webinar with Retina UK all about genetic testing and specifically about my video of me going to Moorfields. The webinar was amazing and I found myself listening to what was being said in that webinar and thinking, this is going to be really helpful for a lot of people. So what I thought I'd do in today's video is just pull out some of the really key important points. First thing is that when you go to your genetic testing appointment, if you haven't got an up-to-date eye test, then you can expect to be put through quite a few tests at the hospital, wherever you choose to go. So just be aware of that. You don't want any nasty little surprises. Genetic testing really is the only way to get to the root cause of genetic sight loss, so RP for me. And it's super important because, as I found out, what you think you have might not actually be what you have. There are experts at these hospitals, genetic experts, that can look and give you a bit more of a definitive answer. However, we have to acknowledge the fact that genetics is changing all the time. It's developing and we're finding out more about sight loss and genetics all the time. So you can't assume that you're going to find out for definite when you have it done, but I think it's super important to do this because actually it might really help find out what's going on. So for me, the ultimate reason for having genetic testing is that if I can get some kind of definitive answer on the gene responsible for my sight loss, then when treatments are becoming available in the future, or there are some available now, but if something comes up in the future which is specifically for my gene, then I want to know about it so that I can get straight into the trials and treatments that might become available. But also, if there is a treatment which is generic for more than one form of RP or retinal problem, then it's also good to know that, because it might be that your genetic type doesn't have a treatment at the moment, so something which treats all retinal diseases might be more beneficial for you than you would otherwise assume. So one thing to be aware of before testing is the differences in times it takes to get your results. So if you have family history of a specific gene and the genetic testing is only looking at one single gene, then the results of that will come back normally within about 3 months. If, like I had to, you go for a whole genome test which is looking at everything, then that can take about 12 months. It was 24 months a few years ago, but they've got it down to 12 months. And when you're watching this, it might be very different. It's changing all the time. But it's a comprehensive look at more than one gene, so that's why it takes so long for it to come back. If you decide to have genetic testing done, you're offered genetic counselling, where somebody will take you through some stuff and answer questions that you've got. But something that was really interesting in the webinar that I was unaware of is that your whole family can get involved in genetic counselling, because it doesn't just affect you as someone with RP, it affects your family and your family planning. Obviously, the thing to bear in mind is that it depends where you are in the world as to whether these services are readily available, but I think it's always worth checking because it should be something that you can get access to. Something that's really common in the groups that I'm a member of on Facebook is that people have had testing and they had results that are inconclusive or didn't show any kind of genetic problem. Now, it's worth having a genetic test done every 5 or so years. So if you were tested sort of around about 2020, it's worth having yourself tested again. Now, just to give you some sort of background on it, when they initially started looking at the whole genome, they were just looking at 111 different types of gene, and they're now looking at 240. So just because you had an inconclusive or a result that didn't show any genetic problem as a cause of your RP, it doesn't mean that if you were retested now that they wouldn't find something. So I think that's a really key message. Just because you've had it done in the past Science has moved on. They're looking at more than double the amount of genes that they were. So there's a good chance that things might have changed. So go get it done. A really important thing to remember is that just because you've had a genetic test done, it doesn't mean that they will keep that sample and keep checking it against new genes when they come out. So make sure that you are following up regularly with your ophthalmologist and just double check that your samples are being checked against new genes as they come out. My last point is, once you've made contact either through ophthalmology or your GP to get genetic testing done, stay on top of it and make sure that the referral is being done in a timely fashion. If you're waiting more than a few months, then you probably need to keep chasing because it shouldn't take too long. There you go. That's my very quick summary of a really cool webinar that I did with Retina UK. I hope you enjoyed that and I hope it was useful. I will also link the Retina UK webinar so you can go and watch the whole thing if you want to go and watch that as well. Any questions, stick them in the comments and I'll get back to you as always.